Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Al-huruf an-nasibatu. The huruf or the letters that make the present tense mansub. We know that these huruf are always used with the present tense only, and they bring some changes to the present tense, to al-mudari. Okay, now we have discussed the use of al-huruf al-nasiba and also al-huruf al-jazima. We have already learned the use with the verbs that do not have weak letters, and today we will see, inshallah, how to use them with the verbs that have weak letters. Okay, what kind of changes will be there when we use these al-huruf al-nasiba with the present tense? What kind of changes will take place? We have learned the use of an. An means that or to. Then we have also learned the use of li, which is called la mutalil. That means in order to or so that. And then we have also learned harfilan, which means will not. Yes, so what kind of changes will occur or take place when we use one of these huruf with the mudari or with the present tense?
The last letter dhamma changes into fatha, Ustad.
Excellent. So we have made some categories, if you remember. There are five verbs that have dhamma. Yaqulu, taqulu, taqulu, aqulu, and naqulu. For example, huwa yaqulu, hiya taqulu, anta taqulu, ana aqulu, and nahnu naqulu. So there are five verbs that have dhamma. Okay. And then the rest of the verbs, they end with noon. All of them, they end with noon. And we have also learned that ani is the sound of dual. Ani is the sound of dual. So we have yaqulani, that means huma yaqulani, they both males say, and huma taqulani, they both ladies say. Then we have antuma taqulani, you both gents or you both males say, and then antuma taqulani, you both ladies say. And then we have, for the plural, we have yaquluna, they say, taquluna, you say, and then there is one which is completely different from all of them, which is taqulina, that means anti taqulina, you say. And then we have yaqulna and taqulna, these are those ladies say and you ladies say. Okay, what do you know about taqulna and yaqulna? Let's begin with that.
It's the second and the 12th form of verbs.
Yeah, but if we introduce the use of al-huruf al-nasiba, what changes will take place with these two verbs? These two verbs, no changes will take place. They are mabni. Both of them are mabni. Okay. So from 12, from 14, two are gone. So we are left with 14. Two of them are already gone because they are mabni al-fath. No changes will take place. Okay, let's say we take the verb an, we take the harf an, and we put with yaqulu. So an yaqulu, it was yaqulu first, but when we introduce an, then what happens? Dhamma changes into fatha. An yaqula, or if you want to recite it or read it with the rules of the tajweed, then you will say an yaqula. That's the rule of the tajweed, which is idgham. However, in everyday Arabic, we will say an yaqula. So the use of an has brought a change, the change in the meaning as well. For example, yaqulu, he says, but an yaqula means to say, or he wants to say. Yani, huwa yuridu an yaqula laka shay'an. He wants to say something to you. Huwa yuridu an yaqula laka shay'an. He wants to say something to you. So similarly, when we have an yaqula changes into yaqulu changes into yaqula, similarly, taqulu will also change into taqula, right? So the introduction of an, or the introduction of li lam al-ta'lil, or the introduction of harf lan will bring two changes. Number one, the dhamma will change into fatha. That's number one. And number two, the meaning will also change as well. So an taqulu changes into an taqula, and then we have aqulu, I say, and when we bring in an, it will be an aqula. Uridu an aqula laka shay'an, I want to say something to you. And then we have naqulu, and of course the introduction of an changes into fatha, so it becomes an naqula. So the introduction of an or li, which is lam ta'lil, or the introduction of harf lan will change dhamma into fatha for the 5 verbs. So these 5 verbs must be clear to you now, and we have discussed about these 5 verbs several times, and we have discussed that when we introduce any of these al-huruf al-nasiba, which is an or li or lan, then the ending changes from dhamma to fatha. Is this clear? Yes. Okay, now we move on to the dual. What happens to the dual, or what happens to the verbs that end with ani and una? The verbs that end with ani and una, the noon gets dropped. When we introduce an, for example, when we introduce an, then what happens? The noon gets dropped. So it will be an yaqula. And similarly, all of these 4 have the ending is ani. So an taqula, and similarly we have here, we have taqulani as well. So when we introduce an, then also the noon gets dropped. And again, we have here taqulani. So we introduce an, and the lam gets dropped. So there are 5 verbs that have fatha, and these 5 verbs that have dhamma change into fatha. And then we have 4 verbs that have the sound of ani, and when we introduce an or li or lan, then the noon gets dropped, so it becomes an yaqula, an taqula, an taqula, and an taqula. Okay, how will we know that what is meant by this and what is meant by this? Of course, from the context, we will come to know, for example, huma yuridani an yaqula laka shay'an. They both want to say something to you. And again, huma taqulani or turidani an taqula laka shay'an. Those 2 ladies want to say something to you. And similarly, antuma turidani an taqula laka shay'an, and similarly antuma turidani an taqula laka shay'an. So what happens here? From the context, we will come to know that which one has been used in what context. Okay, what about the verbs that end with una? The verbs that end with una, the similar change takes place. So the noon gets dropped, so it becomes an yaqulu, and similarly in taquluna, the noon gets dropped, and in taqulina also the noon gets dropped, so it becomes an taquli. And when we talk about the feminine plural, so no change will take place. It will remain as it is, so it remains an yaqulna and an taqulna. No change has taken place. So the 5 verbs that have dhamma, they change into fatha because of an or li or lan. 4 verbs that end with the sound of ani, then the noon gets dropped. And then there are 3 verbs, 2 have una sound and 1 has ina sound. Then when we use an with that, or when we use li or lan with that, then the noon gets dropped, and the last 2, there no change will take place. They remain as it is. So was there any significant change? No significant change has taken place. It is similar to if we have a verb that has all the sound letters, for example, yadribu, tadribu, tadribu, adribu, nadribu, it will be the same change as it has taken place over here. So no big change has taken place, or there is nothing abnormal when we introduce the use of al-huruf al-nasiba with the weak verbs. No significant change has taken place. All the changes that have taken place are regular changes, and that's it. Similarly, the same thing happens over here. I want you to practice one time with me, all of them, so that you know how to use them. So one of them we have practiced with ajwaf wawi, and this is, of course, we know ajwaf yai. This is ajwaf yai here. So what happens here? Now, please tell me what kind of change will take place over here. Yes, can you hear me? Is there anyone to answer? Okay, I hope you can hear me.
I can hear, sir, but don't know the answer. Please explain.
The answer is simple. When you bring an, then what happens here? The dhamma changes into fatha. Dhamma changes into fatha. There are 5 verbs that have dhamma. For example, yabi'u, tabi'u, tabi'u, abi'u, and nabi'u. So when you bring in harf nasib, which is an or lan or li, then what happens? The dhamma changes into fatha. So an yabi'a. What about here? The same change will take place over here.
And tabi'a.
Yes. And the same change takes place here.
And tabi'a.
And then we have
And abi'a. And nabi'a.
and nabi'a. Okay, so similar kind of change has taken place. Then we have the verbs that have the sound of ani for the dual. So what change will take place for ani?
The noon gets dropped. And abi'a.
Excellent. So the noon of the mudari gets dropped. So it will be yabi'a, and it will be also tabi'a, and tabi'a, and tabi'a. So 4 of them. Ani, the noon gets dropped when we introduce an with them. What about yabi'una? What happens over here?
Again, the noon gets dropped. And
Yes.
yabi'u. And tabi'u.
And tabi'u.
And tabi'i.
Tabi'i. But one more change takes place over here. We have to bring extra alif for the plural only. The alif has to be brought over there as well, so that we know that the noon has been dropped. And this only applies to the plural forms of the masculine only. So yaquluna and taquluna, when the noon gets dropped, then it is replaced by alif. And the last 2, what change will take place over here? They will not change, because we know that all of these 2, they are mabni al-fath, and they do not change. And this information or this idea is not new. Everything that we are discussing today is something that we have discussed ever since we started al-af'al al-mudari'ah. So there should be nothing, or there shouldn't be anything that is not clear. If there is anything, please let me know before we move on. So what if I bring here, let's say if I want to put here harf lan, then what kind of change will take place? Only the meaning will change, right? Lan jabiya, he will not sell, and lan tabiya, she will not sell. So when we put here harf lan instead of an, then what happens? The meaning will change, but the ending of the mudari will change from dhamma into fatha, as it has changed with the use of an. So the same thing happens, but the meaning will change. And if you put harf lan with all of them, for example, you replace with this. So as I told you, the meaning will change, but the ending will remain as it has changed because of the use of harf an. So when we replace harf an with lan, the meaning changes, but the ending will be as it was because of the use of an. And why is that? because both of them have the same function. Yeah,
It is nasiba.
yeah, it is
Because-
nasiba. Both of them have the same function. Okay, excellent. So we are done with huruf al-nasiba. Now we move on to huruf al-jazima. Okay, huruf al-jazima, we have learned la al-nafiya, the law of prohibition, when we prohibit someone from doing something. And then we have the use of lam, that means did not. And then we have the use of lamma, which means not yet. And this is what we have discussed in lesson number, I think, 4 or 5. This is not something new. And this is something that you already know. Okay, now please be careful here, because here there will be some changes because of lam. There will be some abnormalities. Okay, because of huruf al-nasiba, there were no abnormalities. But because of huruf al-jazima, there will be some abnormalities. Okay, first of all, we know that when we use lam, then the mudari will be majzoom. You know that, right? We have to drop the ending, it becomes majzoom. We have to drop it. Now, will there any other change take place? Do you think so? Based on your experience of learning the weak verbs?
Yes, Ustad, because the seconds are meeting, the weakest will get dropped.
Yeah, so we have the
waw gets
sakin.
dropped.
Yeah, we have two sakin or sakin, two huruf which are sakin. So the weaker one gets dropped, as we know. So we will drop wow, and it becomes lam yaqul. Lam yaqul, he didn't say. Lam
Ustad,
yaqul.
I just want to
he didn't
confirm,
say.
is it called Nafia only or Nahia?
That's right.
Nafia is negation, right?
Exactly.
I'm
This is
confused.
nahiya. That's right. Thank you very much for the correction. This is not nafia. This is nahiya. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay. La nahiya. La of prohibition. Excellent. So here, what happened because of the use of lam? Two changes have taken place. Number one, the meaning has changed, and number two, we know that when we introduce the use of lam, the ending becomes jazim. The ending gets dropped. Now, when the ending has been dropped or the ending has become jazim, now we have the meeting of or we have the meeting of sakinain. So when we have two letters that are sakin, then we have to drop the weaker one. So when we drop the weaker one, it becomes lam taqul, she didn't say. So lam yaqul, he didn't say, and lam taqul, she didn't say. And the same, the first 5, the same change will take place. So if you are able to implement the change to one of them, then you will be able to implement the change of all of them. So here lam taqul means, sorry. So what will be the meaning here? Lam taqul, you didn't say, okay? So here lam yaqul, he didn't say. Lam taqul, she didn't say. Lam taqul, you didn't say. And here we have I didn't say, so you want to say I didn't say that, so you will say lam aqul, I didn't say that, so it will be lam aqul, and you know the reason now. And we didn't say will be lam naqul, we didn't say. So you want to say, teacher, we didn't say that. Lam naqul dhalik, we didn't say that. So the first 5, 2 changes will take place. And then the first in the ending will be majzoom, and number 2, the waw also gets dropped. So lam yaqul, lam taqul, lam taqul, lam aqul, and lam naqul. Similarly, we have la an-nahiya, for example, and that will be implemented to not all of them. So we will talk about that. And similarly, lamma, when we introduce the use of lamma, it will do the same. It has the same function, but as you can see, the meaning are completely different. Lam means did not, and lamma means not yet. We haven't started the lesson yet. Lamma nabda ad-dars. Yes, we haven't started the lesson yet. Lamma nabda ad-dars. We haven't started the lesson yet. Okay, and when we have the dual one, what happens with the dual? Yes, please tell me, or you should do it now.
Dropping of the noon, Ustad.
The noon will be dropped. What about the waw? Will the waw will also be dropped or no?
No, there is no meeting of sakin, so it will not
Excellent.
be.
So there is no meeting of sakinain. So that's why no, we don't have to drop wow. So you know that the wow will be dropped only with the 5 verbs that have fatha. So the 5 verbs that have fatha, for them, the wow will be dropped. The rest, the changes will be the same. The verbs that end with the ani sound, the noon will be dropped, and similarly, the verbs that have una and ina sound, also the noon will be dropped. And so lam yaquluna becomes lam yaqulu. Okay, what will be the meaning of lam yaqulu? They didn't say. Lam taqulu, you all didn't say. And lam taquli, anti lam taquli, you didn't say. And what about the 5, which are the 2 of them, yaqulna and taqulna? What will happen to them?
Mabni, Ustad.
They are mabni, so no change will take place. Excellent. So here, the only thing that we need to notice here is that the 5 verbs that have dhamma, the dhamma will be dropped, and also the waw will be dropped because of the meeting of 2 sakin huruf, iltaqaw sakinain. Whereas for the rest of the 14 verbs, we know that 2 of them are mabni, they will not change. And the rest of how many of them? They are 5. Okay, the grammarians say al-af'alul khamsatu. What do they say? Al-af'alul khamsa. Why do they say that? Does anyone have any idea?
Alif and noon, they start with ya or tan. Ending is alif and noon, right?
Yeah, but how many of them can you see there?
The 5 of them, Ustad.
Is it 5 or they are more than that? Al-af'alul khamsatu. Look here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, we have 7 of them. But why they call them al-af'alul khamsatu, 5 verbs? These 5 verbs, the noon comes and the noon goes. Sometimes it drops and sometimes it doesn't drop, as we know that. The grammarians call them al-af'alul khamsa because
for the dual, it is again the same.
Yeah, the
things,
dual
right?
are
So
the same.
that's
Yeah,
why-
so basically there are, for dual we have 3 of them. They are the same. So what they say, the grammarians, they drop these, and now if you count how many of them are left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's why they call them al-af'al al-khamsatu. And whenever you hear the word al-af'al al-khamsatu, that would mean that these dual and the plural and one for the feminine, these ones that end with the noon, they are called al-af'al al-khamsa. So basically they are not 5, they are 7, as we have seen. In fact, they are 8, but because of the repetition, these 2 are not counted. So those 2 that existed over here, they will not be counted. So lam taqula, I will write them here anyways, because we should know that how many are there. However, when you count them, or when you say al-af'al al-khamsatu, then that means that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and these 2 are not being counted because these 3 are the same. So what they did, the grammarians, they took only 1 and the 2 have been dropped. So that's why they are called al-af'al al-khamsa. Yes, so do you remember, can you please tell me why we call them al-af'al al-khamsatu? Or what are al-af'al al-khamsa? The ones that end with noon and the noon has been dropped. They are called al-af'al al-khamsa. Okay, so similar kind of change we'll take with ajwafi'ai. So yabi'u, let's bring in lam. And now please you tell me that what kind of change will take place. Because I've been doing it by myself. I want you to do it as well, so that you know that what kind of change has taken place over there. Why do we have this one? Let me put it over here. Okay, so basically what I did here, I copied and pasted. Okay, here. So I should have put here lam only. Yes, so with the use of lam, what kind of change will take place?
Again, there will be a Dhamma changes into a sukoon, meeting of two sukoons, so drop the ya. And finally, lam yabi.
Excellent. So how will we read it? Lam
Yabi.
yabi. Excellent. He didn't sell. Okay, so again, let's implement the change one time. So when we put the lam, then the ending becomes sakin. And then now we have iltiqa sakinain, meeting of two sakin huruf. And we have ya and we have ain, and we know that the weaker one gets dropped. So it becomes lam yabi. Lam yabi. And the similar kind of change will take place over here as well. So we will make this one sakin, and then we will also drop the ya. So lam tabi'. Okay, please let at least try lam yabi'. He didn't sell. Lam tabi'. What's the meaning of lam tabi'? She didn't sell. Okay, lam tabi'. You didn't sell.
You didn't sell.
Lam abi'. I didn't sell.
I didn't sell.
And lam nabi'. We didn't sell. Okay, so excellent. So these are the changes that will take place. As you know, the first five, the ones that have dhamma, they will become sakin and the ya gets dropped. Okay, what happens to the verbs that have ani sound? Now I think it's a piece of cake for you. It shouldn't be a problem now. So for the
noon
dual,
gets dropped.
the dual gets dropped because of lam. Yeah. So whether we have lam or we have lamma or we have la nahiya, the noon gets dropped. So it becomes lam yabi'a, lam tabi'a, and lam tabi'a. And then for the ones that have una, the noon also gets dropped, and the ina, the noon also gets dropped. So it will be lam yabi'u, they didn't sell, and of course we have to put alif. Lam tabi'u, you didn't sell, and then we have to put alif. And anti lam tabi'i, you feminine didn't sell. And then the change for the feminine plural, no change will take place. They are mabni al-fath. So now these changes with the al-huruf al-nasiba, there are no abnormalities. However, with al-huruf al-jazima, there are some abnormalities, and then the verbs, the five verbs that have dhamma, for them waw or ya, it gets dropped. Okay, now how to make fi'l al-amr? Yes, please. What are the steps that we use to make fi'l al-amr? Yes. The first thing we need to do is to make the ending sakin. We make the ending sakin, and then we drop alamat al-mudari. Okay. Now, do you see anything that is abnormal here? The meeting
Yeah,
of
two seconds. That's
yes,
a
so
walk
the
gets
meeting of
dropped.
sakin
It
ends. So
becomes
what we
kul.
do? So we have to change this, and this is qul. Excellent. And mashallah, qul, like there are many surahs in the Quran, like qul huwallahu ahad and qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. So this is how it has changed from taqulu to qul. So this is fi'l al-amr. And we know that for the dual, the noon gets dropped, the ending, and then the alamatul mudari gets dropped. So it will be qula, and then
Kula.
kula, and then for the plural, the noon gets dropped and alif will be added, and similarly alamatul mudari will be dropped and it will be qulu. So qul, qula, qulu. And for the feminine anti taqulina, the noon gets dropped,
Quli.
and also waw gets dropped. It will be quli. And for the dual,
Kuli.
yeah, it will be the same.
Again,
Qula.
Kula.
And okay, now this is the only change. This is the only rare thing that happens in the Arabic language, which doesn't happen anywhere else. We know that for the feminine, it is mabni ala dhamma, and it doesn't change. However, only for the verb qula, for the verb qala, the ending doesn't change. However, alamat al-mudari will be dropped. Please note it down. It is qulna. It should be taqulna. However, only this one is abnormal, or this is the only thing that happens in the Arabic language where we know that The feminine plural are mabni ala dhamma and they do not change. No change will take place. However, in this verb qala, what happens here? Alamat al-mudari gets dropped for the feminine plural. So we have qul, you say, qula, you both say, qulu, you all say, quli, anti quli, you one say, qula, you both ladies say, and qulna, you all ladies say. Okay, now subhanallah, all of them have been used in the Quran. All of them, qul, qula, qulu, quli, and we know that both of them are the same, and qulna. So all 5 of them have been used in the Quran. Let's have a look over here. So the first one, as we know, qul huwallahu ahad. This is say, he is Allah who is one. So qul, yani ant, you say, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then in Surah Taha, we have faqula inna rasula rabbika, and say, and you both say, indeed, we are messengers of your Lord. So as you can see here, rasula, it is also rasulani, right? So rasula. So here we have qula for 2, and then we have qulu wa qulu linnasi husna, and speak kindly to people in Surah Al-Baqarah. This is Surah Taha, the first one, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Taha, Surah Baqarah, wa qulu linnasi husna, and speak kindly to people. And then we have in Surah Al-Maryam, faquli inni nadartu lirrahmani sawma, I say, indeed, I have vowed to the most merciful abstention, yani saum, yani I will not talk to anyone. So we have quli as well. And then also we have وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا, Surah Al-Ahzab, Ahzab, verse number 32, but speak with appropriate speech. And this is to the Azwaj al-Mutaharat, to the wives of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you see, all of them, qul, qula, qulu, quli, and qulna, all of them have been used in the Quran. So now, inshallah, when you are reciting, it should be easier for you. And also, this is very important verb. Qala yaqulu is very important. It is used a lot in the Quran, and as we can see, even fi'l al-amr, all of them have been used as well. Okay, so we have made fi'l al-amr. Okay, fi'l al-nahi. How do we make fi'l al-nahi? Do you remember? First, we put la, yeah, and then the ending will be sakin, and alamat al-mudari will be dropped. And now we have iltaqa sakinain, the meeting of 2 weak letters. So the weak letter gets dropped, or so it becomes sorry. Are you with me?
All ladies say.
Yeah. No, so what happened here? Only the ending becomes sakin. We don't drop alamat al-mudari. We don't drop. We only drop in fi'l al-amr, fi'l al-nahi. We don't drop alamat al-mudari. So we have la taqul, and as we know that we have meeting of 2 sakin letters, so waw will be dropped and it becomes la taqul. And the same rule has been implemented over here. So here we have la taqul, and for the dual, what's gonna happen here? The noon will be
The
dropped.
noon gets dropped. La
So it will be
taqula.
taqula. And for the plural, it will be la taqu.
La taqulu.
La
Taqulu.
and alif will be added, as we know. And then for the feminine, it will be la taqu li. As we know that the noon gets dropped. Then here also the noon gets dropped. So la taqula. And here no change will take place. It will be la taqulna, as we discussed already, that no change takes place with the feminine plural. The only abnormality that we have seen here is in qulna, the noon, the alamat al-mudari has been dropped, whereas the rest, no change or no abnormality will be there, and it will be the same as it is. It is mabni al-fath. Okay, now we have takhafu. Okay, so make fi'l al-amr from this, please. Anyone there? How do we make fi'l
Khaf.
al-amr? So we
Khaf.
make the ending.
Khafa.
La. First we make the ending sakin.
Sakin.
Yeah. And then we drop alamat al-madari. We drop alamat al-madari, and there is one more thing that we need to do. What is that? We have iltaqa sakinain. Alif is sakin and fa is sakin. So what we have to do? We have to drop alif, so it becomes khaf. It becomes khaf. Don't forget there is no need to add hamzat al-wasl because it's readable. Also here there is no need to add hamzat al-wasl because it's readable. So what happens when there is iltaqa sakinain, then we have to drop the weak letter, and similarly it will be takhafa, the noon gets dropped, and it will be takhafu, the noon gets dropped. So the rest there are no big changes. Here it will be takhafi, and it will be the same as takhafa, and for the feminine no change will take place, so it will be takhafna. So khaf, and then it will be khafa, and also it will be, we have to drop alamat al-madari as well, please don't forget. So it will be khafa. So the alamat al-madari we have to drop. Why we have to drop? Because this is fi'l al-amr. In fi'l al-amr we know two changes take place. Change number one is the ending is sakin, and the change number two is we have to drop alamat al-madari. Yes, it will be khafa, khaf, khafa, and it will be khafu, and it will be khafi, and it will be khafa, and this one also khafna. The same change will take place as it has taken place over here. And when we want to make a nahi, we will say la. Yes, la takhaf.
La takhaf.
La takhaf, because in the ka sakinain we have two sakin. So the second letter gets dropped, so it becomes la takhaf, and then this one will be la takhafa.
The noon gets dropped.
Yeah, that's
La
right.
takhafa.
La takhafa, and here it will be la takhafu.
Takhafu.
Excellent. And here it will be la takhafi, and here it will be the same as we have here, so we can simply copy and paste it here, la takhafa, and for the feminine we know no change will take place, so it will be la takhafna. La takhafna. So these are the changes that will take place in Mudari when we use al-huruf al-jazima, or when we use fi'l al-amr, or when we make fi'l al-nahi. So these are the changes that will take place. There is one more thing that we need to know. The verb yajiyu, ja'a yajiyu. Okay, in yajiyu, we can see here that here we have ya, and then we have jim, and then we have ya, and then we have dhamma separate. Here hamza has dhamma, and why hamza has dhamma? Because here it is the part of the root letter. That's why ya is separate and hamza has dhamma is separate. However, when we make it sakin, for example, when we use, for example, lam, if we use lam with that, then after using lam, what happens? The ya becomes sakin. So when ya becomes sakin, then hamza sits on the sakin. If you remember, we have discussed earlier that hamza comes by itself, but when it finds a seat, it sits on the seat. So what happens? Whenever it finds ya sakina, or when it finds waw sakina, then it sits on that. So it becomes, instead of yaji'u, it becomes lam yaji. Lam yaji. Did you get the idea?
Sir, can you explain again, sir?
Yeah, we have here we have the verb yaji'u, yaji'u, ja'a, yaji'u. So we have ya with fatha, then we have jim with kasra, and then we have ya here. Ya is a complete letter here, and then we have hamza, and hamza has dhamma on it, yaji'u. And we know that when we have to make it sakin, when we use lam, then what happens because of lam, the ya gets dropped. The ya gets dropped. So when the ya gets dropped, then what happens? The hamza sits on ya because now ya is sakin. If ya is not sakin, hamza will not sit on it. But whenever it sees that ya has become sakin, for example, here, it was basically lam yaji'u, and because of lam, we know that, okay, so let me show you the complete picture here. So basically what it is, lam yaji, and then we have hamza, and hamza has dhamma on it. Hamza has dhamma on it. Now we know that when we use lam, then what we have to do, we have to make the ending sakin. When we make the ending sakin, now ya is sakin and hamza is sakin. We have iltaqa'u sakinain. Now what we have to do, we have to drop ya. We know the weak letter gets dropped. When we drop the weak letter, then now you can see here, hamza is hanging in the air. It doesn't find a place. And we know that hamza has to sit somewhere. So what happens over there, we bring in a ya, a sakina, and then it sits on ya, a sakina, then it becomes lam yaji, lam yaji. So when ya is a part of the root letter, hamza will not sit on it. But when ya is not a part of the root letter, then hamza will sit on it. So here it is yaji'u, and here it becomes lam yaji. So because of ya has become sakin, it has come and it has sit on the sakin ya. Because we know that hamza always needs a seat. Either it sits on waw or it sits on ya. So here it has sit on ya because ya has become sakin.
Okay, sir.
I hope it's clear now.
Alhamdulillah, yes, sir.
Okay, so we have discussed, I think we discussed all the points of lesson number 27. All the points were discussed. We discussed them earlier. Let's see if there is any point that is still left. If there is any point, we can discuss it today, and inshallah tomorrow we will start the lesson. So nothing was really new in today's lesson. Many things that we have discussed today are similar that we have been discussing for a long time. So there was nothing new over there. In lesson number 27, now I would strongly recommend that you go through all the handouts today, because there is nothing new or there is nothing that we have not covered in all these handouts. These are the changes that we have discussed for the rest of the whole week, last week. For example, قال يقول زار يزور باع يبيع سار يسير نام ينام and خاف يخاف. Now you know how these changes have taken place, and if you go through the handouts today, if you find any difficulty, please let me know. And now here it has changed. Number 6 has changed into قلنا, قلت, قلتم, قلتي, قلتنا, قلتو, and قلنا. And we know that when it reaches to number 6, if it is from Bab Nasara Yansuru, then we put Dhamma. Do you remember that? So I have mentioned
Yes,
here that when it is Bab Nasara Yansuru, then number 6 changes into Dhamma. And if it is not from Bab Nasara Yansuru, if it is Bab Samia Yasma'u or Daraba Yadribu, then it changes into Kasra. As we can see here, Sirna, Sirta, Sirti, Sirtunna, Sirtu, Sirna, and Nimna, Nimta, Nimtum, Nimti, Nimtunna, and Nimtu, and Nimna. So from Bab Nasara Yansuru, it changes into Dhamma, and for the rest of the Abwab, it changes into Kasra, and this is number 6 of the past tense. Then we have discussed these changes, like how it has changed into Yaqulna and Taqulna, and Yasirna and Yanamna and Tanamna. If you are not able to understand, please go and watch the lesson again, and you will be able to understand. And this is what we have discussed today, that Yanama has changed into Yanam, because of iltiqa sakinain. So lam yanam, lam tanam, lam anam, lam nanam. 5 of them that I told you that have dhamma, they will change. The ending will be sakin, and then also the alif or waw will be dropped. So basically it was yanam and alif has been dropped. It was yasir and the ya has been dropped. Lam yasir, lam tasir, lam asir, lam nasir. And as you can see here, from yaqul, it was yaqulu and it has become yaqul. Taqulu has become taqul. Aqulu has become aqul, and naqulu has become naqul. And why is that? It is because of iltiqa sakinain, and we have discussed it in detail today. Similarly, I showed you today how to make fi'l al-amr, how it has become qul, qulu, quli, and qulna. Similarly, it will be sir, siru, siri, and sirna, and nam, namu, nami, and namna. The similar kind of changes that have taken place. Now it's up to you. As much practice you can do practice, and inshallah it will be easy for you. Okay, you remember the use of laqad, wallahi, laqad kittu amutu. We discussed it yesterday, or maybe on Wednesday, I should say, that after wallahi, we use laqad. After wallahi, we use laqad in a positive sentence, but if there is a negative sentence, then there is no need to use laqad. For example, here, wallahi ma akaltu shay'an, wallahi ma katabtu hadha. So when we have positive sentence, we have to use laqad. Wallahi laqad ra'aytuhu fi suqi. By Allah, I saw him in the market. And wallahi laqad sami'tu hadha al-khabara min kathirin min an-nasi. But if we have negative after that, then we don't have to use laqad after that. We will only say wallahi ma akaltu shay'a. What do you remember about dhanna? Do you remember I told you something about dhanna before? That dhanna needs maf'ulain. It needs 2 objects. For example, as you can see here in the lesson, we have dhanantuhu daftari. I thought it to be my notebook. So dhanna is one of the verbs that needs 2 objects or needs maf'ulain. Al-jawu jamilun, the weather is beautiful. But when you say adhunnu, I think, then you have to say adhunnu al-jawwa jamilan. I think the weather is beautiful. So al-jawwa and jamilan, it has maf'ulain, and both of them are mansoob. You know that maf'ul is always mansoob. Haythu, what do you remember about haythu? Haythu is a dharf al-zaman or dharf al-makan. It is used for place and it is also used for time. Ijlis haythu tasha'u, sit where you wish. So basically it means where. It is translated as where, but it is not used to ask a question. It is used in the middle of the sentence. Sit where you wish. And today I told you about yaji'u. When we have yaji'u here, but when ya becomes sakin, then the hamza will sit on al-ya al-sakin and it becomes lam yaji. And then number 6 is shafaq Allahu shifa'an kamilan. Number 6, what is the use of number 6? Do you remember what kind of maf'ul is this?
Maf'ul mutlaq.
Mutlaq. Yeah, and what we have to do, we have to use the masdar. So the masdar is used for emphasis. So shafa yashfi, and the masdar is shifa'an. So shafaq Allahu shifa'an kamilan. May Allah grant you complete health. So if you ask someone or you tell someone shifaq Allahu, that is excellent. But if you say shifaq Allahu shifa'an kamilan, that is like perfect. That may Allah give you complete shifa. La yanbaghi, it is not proper or it is not appropriate. La yanbaghi li talibi an yaghiba, it is not proper for a student to be absent. So la yanbaghi also used in the Quran as well in Surah Al-Maryam. So this is a verb that is only used in the present tense, and it is also used, only the one form of the present tense is used, which is la yanbaghi, or that's it. So yanbaghi, only yanbaghi is used. The past tense is not used in everyday life, or it is not used at all. However, it has passed, it is imbagha, yanbaghi, but as I said, only the present tense is used, and it is basically used that it it is not appropriate for you to do it, or it is not good for you to do it. So as it is in Surah Al-Maryam, وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَن يَتَّخَذَ وَلَدًا. In Surah Maryam, verse number 92. And also it is Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 18, and also Surah Al-Shu'ara, verse number 21, 211, and Surah Yasin as well. So it's been used like around 6 places in the Quran. In 6 surahs it has been used in the Quran. Surah Yasin, Surah Sad, Surah, and also Surah Shu'ara, Furqan, and Maryam. So one example from Surah Maryam you can remember, which is verse number 92 of Surah Maryam. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَن يَتَّخَذَ وَلَدًا. So that example will be more than enough for you. And it means it is not becoming, or it is not appropriate for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a son. Mata is used in 2 past forms of the verb and 2 present forms of the verb. One, it is used as Bab Nasara Yansuru, it will be Mata Yamutu, and also it is used as Khawafa Yakhwafu, and it will be Mata Yamatu. It is used in 2 ways in the Quran, Mata Yamutu, and also it is used as Mata Yamatu. Yamatu is not used in the Quran. Yamutu has been used in the Quran, as the Sheikh has mentioned over here that Mata Yamutu is like Qala Yaqulu with a mutaharrik pronoun. The first radical has Dhamma in the and Muttu and Mutna in the Quran, and Muttu occurs twice. So these are the, and Yamutu only occurs in the Quran, and Yamatu does not occur in the Quran. I have prepared a schedule. I think I will share it with you. Please remind me tomorrow, or maybe I can show it to you. I have it just to show you, and inshallah for more details I will send it to you, and you can relate like what it is meant by that. So as you can see here, we have Mata Yamatu on the pattern of Nama Yanamu, which is Bab Sami'a Yasma'u, and then we have Mata Yamutu on the pattern of Qala Yaqulu, which is Bab Nasara Yansuru. So as you can see here, Mata, Mata, Matu, Matat, Matata, Mitna. Now why it is Mitna? Because it is from Bab Sami'a Yasma'u. It is not from Bab Nasara Yansuru. So if it is not from Bab Nasara Yansuru, then we have to put Kasra. But when it comes to Bab Nasara Yansuru, then it will be Mata, Mata, Matu, Matat, Matata, Mutna. You remember? On the pattern of Qulna. On the pattern of Qulna. So from Bab Nasara Yansuru, it will be on the pattern of Qulna, it will be Mutna. And from Bab Sami'a Yasma'u, it will be on the pattern of Kasra, and it will be Mitna. So we have discussed this several times. You can have a look at it, and inshallah it will be easier for you to understand like what is meant by that. And I have also put the same notes that the Sheikh has mentioned in the handouts. So I will send it to you inshallah as well. I know lots of information we have talked about today, but most of it is basically what we have been talking about for the previous week, for the whole week. So I think now it must be inshallah more than enough for you to be able to understand the changes in the week letters and how we change from the past, how we change from the present. And inshallah, I am very sure that when we start the lesson tomorrow, it will be like a piece of cake for you. And you will enjoy it inshallah tomorrow. You will find it easier inshallah. Any questions? I will post the recording today inshallah. So if you want to watch it, you can watch it again. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله خيرا.
وإياكم.